All right. Hello, folks, and welcome to another edition of CrossHack. This is our newer stream where basically I've just been coming on and specifically working on the Crossplane and cluster API integration. But that is not specifically what we have to work on the show, but we're going to be back on that again today for part three. And today we're going to see if we might be able to go ahead and disable the cluster API controller that we're trying to replace with the Crossplane composition and maybe look into what building that configuration package and installing cluster API and Crossplane into the same cluster would look like. I also mentioned to some folks in Crossplane Slack this morning that if they just had some kind of Q&A sort of stuff, that we could go through that as well. So if folks show up and want to do that, then we certainly will. Also, if you are watching the stream, please feel free to let us know that you're joining and where you're joining from, and I'll make sure to periodically look back at that. But let's go ahead and get started. And before we actually do anything on the typical CrossHack stream here, I have a cherry pick that I've been monitoring in upstream Crossplane. Um, and I am going to, well, I'll go ahead and pull it up here just so we can take a look at what it is. But basically, a bunch of these fixes. Oh, sorry, that hasn't come up for you yet. 1 second here. Sorry about that. All right, so here's this cherry pick. As you can see, there's kind of a lot of PRs coming into this one cherry pick, and I've been monitoring this. If you're not familiar with the cherry pick process, you can look into the Kubernetes docs on that. But basically, if it's a cherry pick to a active release branch, so not to the master branch, then it needs to be approved by a release manager. This one is bringing in a number of different cherry picks here. And I was trying to get some context on why these are all being bulked into a single cherry pick. And I just got some in Slack basically saying that there were a couple fixes in here that require the other ones basically to be able to get this one in. One of the things I'll point out is this is only to release 1.19. We like to get cherry picks into all active branches at the same time where applicable. So I'm actually just off screen here going to message back in a thread and say, is there other cherry picks or is this applicable to other branches that we need to get this into? So I'm going to do that real quick before we get started just to get them unblocked. So I just asked if this is applicable to other branches than 1.19, and I'll keep an eye on that just in case they follow up. And it looks like a few more people just jumped on. So definitely feel free to introduce yourself, as I said at the beginning, and we can do that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up our documentation site and give us a little bit of a recap of where we're at. So this is actually to Crossplane. So we have providers for Crossplane and Cluster API, provider GCP. And then we also have the, let's see, it's going to be GitHub, Kubernetes SIGs, and it's cluster API provider GCP. All right. And what we're focused on doing here is replacing this GCP cluster type here with a composition from Crossplane that represents all the different resources that get provisioned when a GCP cluster type gets created, which involves, and we have an issue on provider GCP here that I will pull up and we will work from today. And we've been working from for the last two streams, which are linked in the comments if you'd like to take a look. Basically, that GCP cluster type and cluster API provider GCP results in the creation of these resources. We worked on the router type, which is a cloud router on GCP last time, and we were able to get create and delete implemented for that, but it's definitely not fully there yet. So we may take some time improving that. I also want to look into, since we're doing this as a POC, right? I want to look into getting these different types implemented and see if we can kind of wholly replace that controller. So in, let's see, I think I added a link recently to this. Yeah, cluster API. We need cluster API provider GCP. Let's see here. So what we really want to do is go into this controller, and we want to disable this GCP cluster controller, which is what reconciles that GCP cluster type, and just have that handled by our Crossplane composition, which eventually will spit out resources that are handled by provider GCP. And likely where that's going to happen, let's see, where is our entry point in main.go? Let's see if this is where the controllers are set up. Here's our controller manager, GCP cluster reconciler. So let's see. Yeah, set up with manager. So this is where we're setting up. So we'd basically take this out, and we would still have that GCP cluster type present, but it would be an XRD, or the result of an XRD from Crossplane, and the GCP machine type would be reconciling that result from Crossplane as opposed to the GCP cluster type here. So what we'd want to do, and you'll see stat GCP, which is an alias for provider GCP here, and then cluster API provider GCP, both open. So what I want to do is create a branch here, disable cluster controller, and we're actually just going to go ahead and do that. So we'll open this up. Hopefully the language server doesn't get sad with us here. And actually, I believe, let me make sure that I have this up to date. I think that I did before this. Okay, cool. All right. And so what we want to do is go into main.go here. And let's see if we can just go ahead and, so this is set up with manager, logger, cool. All right, so we are just going to take this out. And okay, that looks like the only part for the cluster there. So that should make this controller not registered with the controller manager. And so it shouldn't run any of that code. And then the other thing we want to do, and maybe there's some docs on actually setting this up here, community page. I'm wondering what the kind of default way to run this is. They do have a tilt file here. I'm not actually super familiar with tilt, but I've heard it's pretty great. So we might want to take a look at that. Reporting a patch, issue and pull request management, config. G, okay, customize. So we'll probably just do a customize apply.k. And GCP clusters. So I'm going to remove this. That looks good. And let's see. And I'm going to, we don't need this cert manager stuff for now either. GCP cluster. I'm going to keep this here because I believe if we just remove it from the customization file here, we can actually go ahead and try that. Let's see what they have in the customized config. Service, custom resource definition. Okay. So I'm going to create a kind cluster. Oh, I already have a kind cluster running with nothing installed. I don't know what's in there, so let's just start from scratch. All right. And while that's coming up, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the resources that we need to still implement. So we have this health check service from the compute package. And we noted here that it references the load balance or patches from the load balancer backend port. So this should be pretty isolated. I wonder if it also references a network. I wouldn't be surprised if it did, or maybe the cloud router itself. Let's see, has a description, fingerprint, health checks, and okay, so not a lot here. Network endpoint groups. Okay, so we need a region is output only, but I'm guessing that it's in the actual call as well. Compute API, this is what we were looking at last time. And this will tell us the exact calls you actually have to make to create these. So let's look at health checks. And insert. Looks like you just need a project potentially. Let's make sure this is the, well, this looks like a different resource here. Health check service potentially somewhere in here. Let's see, what did it say here? Health check service. It has health checks, list of URLs to the health check resources. Okay. Let's pull this up again and see how it's being used in cluster-api, which should give us a good idea here. All right, SSL health check. Type. Okay, I think I have the wrong resource here because this looks like just a health check, not a health check service. So we can update that. Let's go ahead and do that here for anyone who's following along. Assuming we can actually find a health check type here. Jump to health check. Let's see if there's a, let's go to that. All right, this looks more like what we're looking for here. HTTP, yeah, awesome. Okay, this has, once again, output only region. All right, I don't think this is referencing anything necessarily. Cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and update that. So that one, let's see, get API, compute health check, backend service, get API proxy. Server target proxy. Interesting. Well, I'm not sure how I initially got that it was a health check service, but I think it's just a health check. So we'll go ahead and replace that. And we can go from there. All right. Where were we at? we have our kind cluster creating. And so let's go into config CRD. Oh, that is not what we want. CRD. And then let's do kapply -k. And let's see if that works. Got file. Okay, so I think customizers takes maybe a directory. Error when creating custom resource definition. This property must have a default field. GCP machine templates. Let's see, properties, property template. This probably has to do with how these compose into a higher level thing here. What is default here? Credentials. Okay. Let's just do all of it, I guess. Patch CRD. Okay, we're not using webhook functionality, I don't think. Let's just see if we go out and apply all of it. Also, oops. Oh no, we don't want github.com. sigs.k8s.io, cluster-api-provider-gcp. I think that there might be a template here. Yeah, here we go. Cluster template. So this is all the things. Oh, this is to create it though. So we need to have it installed for that to work. I wonder. Let's look at the docs. Let's see, cluster API. And let's go to quick start. And so, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what's happening because there's this command that's typically used. So this is setting up cluster init infrastructure GCP, installing provider, cluster API, bootstrap kubeadmin. Let's see. All right, let's see if we can do the kapply -k config and see if that works for us. Let's see, we're still getting an issue with the custom resource definitions. So items, properties, key, default. Spec validation, properties. Let me look back into this. GCP cluster. I wonder if this is doing some sort of patching. No, doesn't look like it. Interesting. All right. Spec validation, properties, spec, properties, template, properties, spec, properties, additional metadata, items, properties, key, default. Okay, let's look and see if we can find that. Default. Let's see. Additional metadata. What was it? Additional metadata. Let's see. Spec, properties, additional metadata, properties, key. Okay, it's this X Kubernetes. I wonder if I have too old of a Kubernetes version potentially. Let's see, what's the field? X Kubernetes list map keys. This property is an X Kubernetes, so it must have a default or be a required property. Let's actually just Google that and see if we can find it. probably not the first people to have hit this before. Here we go. All right. In a V1 beta 1, let's see. So in a V1, it must be given a default. This is a, let's see, are we using V1 or V1 beta 1? We're using V1. So the issue is it's not required or given a default, I'm guessing. Let's see if there's anything interesting here. I wonder if there's any things with actually with cluster API. It doesn't look like it. Interesting. Okay. In a V1 beta 1 CRD. So this should work. I'm guessing it's because I have, let's see. I think kind has a cluster version field. Let's see. Yeah. Well, kind version should give me, that gives me the kind version, which is old. And what is the node version? Let's see if this tells us Docker container ls. 1.18.2. And let's see if cluster API provider GCP tells us anything about the Kubernetes versions it's compatible with. Oh, let's see. Additional metadata. That sounds interesting. So this is recent. It looks like somewhat 9 days ago. Metadata is often used to store tracking information. Let's see. Yeah, let me look up the kind configuration here to specify the image. Let's see, configuration. And CSI. Let's look at image maybe. Let's see, base image. No, that's not what we want. Version. Okay. Specify another kind, create cluster image, and what we want is let's try 1.20. Kind, create cluster image equals kindest node v1.20.0 potentially. And let's see if we have configuration here. Okay, yeah, that looks fine. I assume it's going to use this node for all of them. It does look like it might be stuck on that though. Oh well, we can come back to that. All right, I'm going to hop over to my stack GCP code here. And let's see if we can get another type going here. Health check types.go. All right, and I'm going to copy over the router type here. It's obviously going to have all types of issues here. And we can actually get rid of everything but the observation and the spec. Let's see. Router BGP, router parameters. Okay. Oh, man. All right. Let me go down. Router observation. Awesome. Okay. So instead of router, which we can actually go ahead and get rid of this that we were using. Actually, let's do this. I'm just using that to be able to access the API handily. Let's just try health check. All right. We'll keep this up. Check interval seconds. All right, cool. So we want all of these. And let's do a quick read of what the health check is. Represents health check resource. Google Compute Engine has 2 health check resources, so health checks and regional health checks. Internal load balancers use regional health checks. On network, you must either HTTP health checks or HTTP health checks. That seems like a, oh, HTTPS. There we go. All right. And I want to do this, and I also want to rename all of this router stuff to health check. Oops. And we're going to have to fix all of these comments for sure. And all right, take the output only thing. So first we're going to strip off this name. We talked a little bit about the name, how names are handled in Crossplane last time. If you'd like a recap on that, go ahead and drop that into the chat, because I'm not going to go through it if everyone is already familiar. Check interval seconds, default value. Okay, so creation timestamp, output only. What do we do with output only? We put it in the status of the resource. And these are going to look probably pretty similar to some other ones. Region, output only. Kind is not output only, as we were just seeing there. Let's see if any of these other ones, let's get rid of region, self-link, of course. All right. ID output only, that makes sense. I'm going to switch that to an N64 also. We'll put that here. And it's not going to like that very much. All right. Type. Let's see. Default is CCP. That sounds like it's optional. Let's pull up that that GCP API spec. Is typically what I go through to determine. Let's see. Request ID. So this looks like that. Let's see if we have required name. So not even name is required. It must pick one for you potentially if. Okay, so I'm not seeing any required fields here, which is probably pretty good for us. All right. So we need our SSL health check. We need all of these. Oh, these are going to be fun. Okay. Description. We already removed creation timestamp. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do some of our, let's see if I have any left over. Move this. Let me grab one of these optional immutables here. Slap that on the description. Optional and immutable, check interval seconds. I don't think that's immutable, so we'll say it's not for now. Healthy threshold. All right, looks like we're already about halfway through here, so we need to pick it up a little bit because we have had really bad weather here actually recently. I'm based in St. Louis, and I am finally gonna get to go on a run today, I think. So I'm pretty excited about that. Let's make all of these optional. This is a health check. I'm not sure about kind yet. I think it's optional. But like I said, I'm not entirely sure. Type. Okay, and we should make that an enum eventually as well. Unhealthy threshold. I'm guessing that default value. Yep. All right, cool. TCP health check, HTTP2 health check. Also, something to mention is, these have some default values defined. And so we could just default to those. If the cloud provider is going to do that anyway, we'd prefer to just defer that responsibility to them, because it makes it easier on us. We don't have to keep up with, changes cloud provider is making in terms of that default. Excuse me. If instead, when a user submitted, no value for that, and we said, all right, we're going to go ahead and set it to 2, then, if the cloud provider changes default behavior, that would be unexpected now for the user because we're defaulting to 2, but maybe the cloud provider is defaulting to 3 or something like that. All right, HTTP2 health check. Let's grab all of these. I think they are pretty small nested structs, I'm hoping, but we'll see for sure here. Well, they're definitely not as small as I was hoping. Let's see. But they should be relatively straightforward. Health check types. All right. Let's get rid of these. HTTP2 health check. What is it sad about? It doesn't like the naming. Okay, HTTP health check. It's probably going to look fairly similar. All right. Does look extremely similar. Let's go ahead and drop this in. Strip those off. All right. What was that? HTTP to HTTP, HTTPS. Let's grab that one. All right. Go down, strip these off. These all look very similar. We can probably use, let's see, port specification. I wonder if these are actually all the exact same. Host port, the TCP number. The comments might be useful though. The default value is 80, for instance. The default value is 443. Yeah, it's kind of a lot of duplication. Really, we should be generating all of this as is anyway. But since we're not, I'm going to keep those structs for now, just because it has these nice specifications of, what those fields actually mean or what the defaults are. So we'll keep those. All right. And I believe we have one more TCP health check, which I think is what we actually use in Cluster API. So let's jump over to that. And for folks who are watching right now, if y'all would prefer, we could try to actually make running the GCP cluster type configurable, or we could proceed with this. I'm fine either way, but it would be nice to be able to get this out there. But we could also potentially open a PR to on cluster API provider GCP. Let's see, Google Compute Engine VPC health check. And like we did last time, I also just like to get a feel of what this actually looks like in the console. So let me pull that up real quickly in my other window here. Also, if folks are interested, there is going to be a chat in Clubhouse tonight too about Kubernetes and Crossplane and some other things. So definitely feel free to join that. I think Grant, who is one of my coworkers, posted a link to that. And so if you're interested in that, if you're not on Clubhouse, I know right now it's not really the best place because not everyone has access because of the iPhone thing and the invite thing. I have some invites that I'd love to share with literally anyone. It's kind of frustrating that it's modeled that way. I understand that. I hope it's for the case that they're just not able to accommodate too many folks right now. But if you'd like to join and you don't have an invite, please let me know. All right, so I'm going to pull over this GCP console here and tell all of our secrets. All right, let's look into our VCP network, VPC network, excuse me. So I'm wondering where the health checks actually live at. So we did Cloud Router last time. We can just search for it. It might be defined directly on the network. Okay, here we go. It's compute engine health checks. Well, it looks like we have quite a lot of them. This is probably from, yeah, spinning up Kubernetes services. Let's see. What does it look like to actually create a health check? Whether VM instances, yeah. Okay, so this is exactly what we're setting up here. And I'm going to go ahead. I know for a fact we don't have any Kubernetes clusters set up. So I'm wondering if GKE just leaks these actually. If so, let's see, scope global. Kubernetes IO service name. Interesting. All right, yep. I'm going to go ahead and scrub these. Delete 30 health checks. Yes. Yes. That sounds a little scary. All right. Well, that was fast. Let's go ahead and get the controller going for this. So once again, we can copy over our router. That's example. Let's take our router here. Oh, I forgot that we're doing the new folder health check. Probably gonna have to reorganize these at some point given health check.go router. I'm just gonna copy this again. Once again, we'll also have to do our mini find and replace here. But I'm going to get rid of all of this. And we'll say this is package health check. And we're going to take in compute health check here. Let's find router. Do a quick find and replace of those. Health check. Sounds good. We'll say HC is the parameter name here. Nice. Okay. And so let's just step through these. HC dot check interval seconds equals GCP dot N64 value in check interval seconds. HCP, let's see, creation timestamp, that's output only. Description, we did that. HTTP status code, GCP dot, oh, do we have an int value? Oh, that should be an N64 anyway. Let's see. In dot, what is this? HTTP status code. Or did we not reflect that? Let's see. Is that a top level field here? It doesn't look like it. Name, kind. Interesting. Sir, oh, okay. It's embedded. I see. Let's see. HC description. Status. Oh, that's literally the status code in the response. All right. Healthy threshold equals GCP N64 value in healthy threshold. Let's see. HTTP2 health check. And what we want to do here, we'll say if in.http2 health check does not equal nil, and we're going to be able to copy this pretty much verbatim from all of these, which will be nice. And we'll say this equals compute HTTP health check host GCP string value HC host. Well, let's see. Which one of these fields are required? Health check. We didn't go through any of the substructs here. Let's see. The value of the host header. Default. Okay, so that's not default. Port sophistication, if not defined. Default is none. Default. All right, it looks like none of these are required. So I wonder if, interesting. Let's just make all of these optional, I guess. Let me go ahead and grab those tags too while we're at it. Optional, 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 port name, optional. Once again, add some enums here in the future. Possible values, enums again. Add some validation potentially on that path. All right, HTTP health check host. So it's interesting to see. I bet the GKE, you know how we saw all of those different health checks that were just existing in the in our console. I believe that GCP just creates those automatically, potentially for node groups or something like that. Be interested to see where those come from Actually, one thing we could do is let's spin up a GKE cluster and see what happens. That'd be kind of fun. Although I am very determined to get a health check created using Crossplane in this time. I will say while the weather has been super bad, I've been doing living room workouts, which is it looks very silly. But if you go on YouTube, there's actually some incredible stuff there for kind of guided workouts and that sort of thing. We don't have any weights or anything, but I don't really lift weights either, so I guess that's fine. Let me pull up the chat again here just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Let's see. Rahul posted. Could you please post the link again? I'm sorry, I can't tell the timestamps on here. Could you specify which link you were talking about there? And I will make sure to drop that in here. Hopefully that wasn't too long ago that you mentioned that and you're still around to chat about it. All right. And I know this is riveting TV, but we are just about done here. Health check observation. Okay. Like I said, those are just observations. Another thing I want to do, or else I will absolutely forget, is go ahead and register this. Let's just copy the router. And we can, oh, that's not what I meant to do. Replace router here with health check. And I think it's going to be sad with me here because the methods are not implemented yet. Health check and health checklist. Should have just done the find and replace over all of that. So it's not going to like that, but we can do our make generate here and it should run that for us. Let me check one thing in Slack real quick. All right, and this should be okay now. Let's see if this will make it happy. Let's see if our deep copy gen. Yeah, it looks like it did. Okay, we're good to go now. And our health check, where were we with this? Oh, not very far. Okay, GCP dot string value. And like I said, even though we're using the different types here, we should be able to copy them and just change the struct name, which is kind of nice. I mean, considering that we are using different structs for all of these. Port N64 value in HTTP2 health check port. And what's next? Port name. I'm going to go ahead and look at port name, port specification, port name. Port name, port specification, GCP dot string value in dot HTTP2 port specification. What else do we have here? Request path, proxy header, and request path and response. Proxy header in dot. Oh, come on. Proxy header and request path. String value in dot HTTP2 health check request path. Let's see. What was the last one? Response. Nice. Okay. And I am just going to copy this over and over again. And we're going to say HTTP health check. How many of these are there? Let's see. We have HTTP2, HTTP, HTTPS, SSL, TCP. Okay. So let's just copy this down again. And we'll make this HTTPS. Nice. And then we had SSL. SSL health check. And I think I'm missing a few other fields here. Yeah, so some of these not applicable. I don't know what the delete line shortcut is by default in VS Code. And I don't see anything else from Rahul. If you do hop back on, Rahul, or if you're back on right now, definitely let me know which specific link it was, or just message me in Slack or on Twitter or something like that. TCP health check. TCP health check. Yeah, and that looks just like the SSL one. All right. What else do we have? Healthy threshold. Regions output only. We did check interval sec. Healthy threshold. Kind. We need to do kind. I'm just going to move this up to the top too, just so we can see all these together. Equals. Well, right now I have kind required, but I'm fairly certain that's not the case. Where was kind? Kind. Type of the resource. I'm not sure what the difference is between type and kind here. So let's take a look. Type of the health check. We might want to do some validation on specifying the type of the health check and then the actual one provided. And where is kind? Type of the resource. Yeah, I don't know what the kind is. Maybe it's specified in cluster API provider. It is not. Well, we're going to make it optional because it definitely doesn't look like it's required. We're going to need to regenerate those as well. Okay. We had kind, name, region, output only, self-link, timeout sec, type, unhealthy threshold. Okay. Timeout sec equals GCP N64 value and timeout HC. Oh man, I'm already forgetting them. Check interval, we already did that. Kind, I think they're in order here. Unhealthy threshold type, that's the one I was looking for. String value in type, and HC, what was the last one? Unhealthy threshold, excuse me. GCP in64 value in dot unhealthy threshold. Nice. All right, so we have good client here. That one was a lot easier. Once again, we don't have the external resource or up-to-date checks or anything like that. So router.go and healthcheck.go is what we want here. I'm going to use the router again. Package compute. Let's see. Router. Let's see if I still have that saved. Yep. Health check. We'll call this HC external. HC connector. Let's see. Router external. Let's go ahead and change those all to HC external. Okay. So I have quite a few errors here. It doesn't like the, let's see. This needs to be health check. See if it finds it for us. It does not. Okay. Oh, it did find it for us. Wonderful. Router dot, let's see. What does the health checks get? We don't need the region on those. Nice, which is good. Where else do we use the region? Get rid of that. I'm gonna call this HC. Oops. All right. HC. Yes, I do know. Oh, don't give me the suggestions. I do know that HC doesn't exist. Now it does. Let's see if make generate makes this happy. So I just want to see if that apply -k, if it did fix it. I'm sure that this is, no, it still says it's a required property. I'm probably missing a patch or something, I'm guessing. Interesting. Like I said, this was recent. I'm going to go back to, because of the limitation of the time to store tracking information. API change. I don't know if this is actually like an issue or not. I assume it would be identified by some end-to-end tests. Maybe we can take a look. Cluster API provider GCP. Let's see, PR conformance. Need PR end-to-end test. I'm assuming since it passed, yeah, it's passing just fine. I am not entirely sure, to be honest, about that error, because it doesn't have a required or a default. And I believe that we're using, yeah, 1.20. What is, okay, let's see. Yeah, 1.20 cluster. patches. I'm going to look back at this one more time as well. Or given a default value. I wonder if it's supposed to have a default. Anyway, once again, we can get rid of the meta here. It still doesn't like managed get condition. I bet this is just a temporary thing. It definitely has get condition. Yeah. Okay. I guess here we go. Now it fixed itself. Okay. So let's go ahead and see if we can create one of these. Examples, health check, .yaml, AC, health check, example. And these are obviously not the fields we want here. Let's duplicate exactly what we have in cluster API. So name be whatever. We're going to use the name as external name initializer. So CAPI health, CAPI HC. And then our 4 provider fields are, let's see, API server, load balancer, health. That is, I'm guessing this is just like, well, it's going to be SSL, right? Because that's what we're providing. Load balancer backend port. Once again, a number of these reference this. Let's just say it's like 6443 port specification. Okay, SSL health check. Let's see here. So the actual key on this is, here we go, SSL health check. That's what we want. And we want to go down to here. So we want that for sure. And the 2 fields we wanted were port and port specification. So port, we're just going to say 6443 port specification. And we'll use this use fixed port here. All right. API server, it's not giving me this. Let's see. Last time I had the comma in there when I searched. Oh, nope. Remove. Here we go. SSL, yeah. Perfect. And what was this? Type. SSL. And what were the other things that we had there? Check interval sec, timeout sec, 10.5.5 healthy threshold. Okay, 10.5.5.3 check interval sec. Check interval sec was 10. Timeout, what was that? Timeout sec was 5. Healthy was 5. Unhealthy. Timeout sec 5. It was unhealthy timeout, I think, right? Unhealthy threshold. Okay. And then the last one here, healthy threshold, which actually was first, which doesn't matter, of course, but trying to make it look as close as possible. Having trouble talking a little bit. All right. This was 5, and this one was 3, I believe. Yep. All right. So that should be what we need here. I think I still have my creds here. So that's good. We can reuse my credentials. I have my cluster set up. So what I'm going to need to do is, let's just make sure this is up to date again. And then I am going to apply well, first I'm going to set up GCP. So I'm going to run it locally, so we don't need that. Project ID. Well, let's see, we can run this command, create our secret. Nice. Okay, create NS Crossplane system, which just doesn't exist because we don't actually have Crossplane installed right now. Project ID. Forgot we need that for the provider config. Project ID equals Crossplane playground. Okay. And we'll go ahead and go with this. Create our provider config, and it is called default. Package CRDs. All right, looks good. Let's do this again. Provider config looks good. And all right, so the last thing to do, or the 2 last things to do, I guess, are to, well, I spoke too soon. There's a couple things we need to do. Compute, setup router, compute setup health check. Want to add that. Our APIs are already added, I believe. Yeah, by the group. And so we need to run our actual controller, which I'm gonna run it locally. GitHub Crossplane stack GCP. Go run command. We'll run it with a debug flag here. And then up the top, we're going to do examples, compute, and let's see. Guarantee you we get an error here. Let's see. Cannot observe external resource. Manage resource is not a router resource. So that would be an issue for sure with trying to observe. I don't know if that's just the error message or let's see, healthcheck.go. Do we have router anywhere? We definitely do. Okay, so let's make this an HC connector. Where else do we have router in here? Okay, those are commented out. Okay, well, it was using the whole connector to give us a, oh, and once again, compute service. No, that's fine. Interesting. I wonder, health checks.get. Interesting. Let's see. This is manage resources, not a router resource. So yeah, I think it was using that controller. Let's restart this and see what that gives us here. All right, so that gave us a panic. So let's figure out what's going on. Too far. Let's see. Invalid memory or nil pointer dereference. So that's going to be in our client. I would definitely bet you line 75. Health check. 75 port. Ah, here we go. This is what happens when you move too fast. So these, I'm actually just gonna manually do it. For the other ones, we can do a scoped find and replace. So here, let me do this. And then we'll say HTTP2. We want to be HTTPS. Replace all of those. In this one, we'll say, I always do that. Highlight it, give us HTTP2, SSL. All right, and then this one. Did it again. There's probably a way to switch it without deselecting, but I am not skilled in that regard yet. All right. Now let's give this a try. External resource is up to date. Looks good. All right, and I printed it out here. And let's see if, in fact, we see a health check here. It doesn't look like it yet. Maybe we just needed a refresh. There we go. Cappy HC. Nice. 5 consecutive. Okay, yeah. This is everything we set up, so that's good. I did want to see real quick if in our Kubernetes engine here, if creating one, which obviously Cluster API, right, is trying to go and set up install Kubernetes with kubeadmin on VMs here, and then set up all the networking around it. So essentially, GKE, while I don't think they're using Cluster API, is doing the same thing behind the scenes, right? They have their own GCP APIs, and they are utilizing those. So I'm just gonna not configure anything and create this. And then I want to look over and see, as part of the creation here, if that eventually results in the creation of a number of, let's see, where is compute engine? Did I already go past it? Compute engine health checks. Let's open this in a new tab so we don't lose this, because it might take a minute for it to get provisioned. And we'll wait for it to come up before saying for sure if this happens. It might happen after the cluster is done provisioning, or it might be just something completely separate. But I'm guessing this is how it does some of the facilitation of health checking the API server. So anyway, all right, so we have that done pretty much. Obviously, we still have a number of these types of things to figure out here. I really wonder about this issue if the, I'm going to switch back over here. And let's just open this back up. Like I said, this is new, so X Kubernetes list map queues. I actually don't know much about this type. We don't use it anywhere in Crossplane yet. This looks like the same issue we were looking at earlier, potentially. Let's see, but it fails with 1.18. Let's see. Let's see. Release notes, extend CRD validation. Nobody had the necessary validations for CRDs and CRs on the map keys to make the mechanism sound. So I wonder if actually running on an older Kubernetes version could actually help us out here. So it looks like this was working for Tamal in 1.17. Obviously, this isn't super important, and I'm going to go ahead and clean up that health check and see if that works for us. Also, do want to do our customary Twitter screen grab here, so folks know that we we accomplished something here. I know people are waiting with bated breath, but select area to grab, take screenshot. Okay. We'll use something that's a little more square here. That should do it for us. I'll just call this Cappy HC, and I'll make sure to post that after we finish up here. Also, was that controller tools issue fixed? Let's see. May 6th, 2020. 480. Interesting. All right, yeah, I am going to go ahead and delete this health check here. All right, cool. So it looks like it was able to clean that up. Let's see if creating a Kubernetes cluster actually, or a GKE cluster specifically, did create a health check. It doesn't look like it has. So I'm not exactly sure where all those different health checks came from. Let's see if this is ready. I bet it is at this point. Maybe. Could be from creating a specific node pool. Well, it looks like we're still, okay, so there we go. It's still being configured, health checks. So yeah, that's probably exactly what's happening. I wonder if those get leaked. But we can see. Let me look at something real quick. I'm going to respond to one thing on Slack here. Can take 5 minutes or more. I definitely think we're going into the more category at this point. All right. We'll give this a couple more seconds, and we'll also try the Cappy change. Maybe we can open up a fix as well, although it's probably controller tools. Let's look back at that PR that added the metadata type. Oh, I think I closed that out at this point. I don't think there's been that many PRs. Oh, there it was. Let's see. I don't think there's been that many recently. So support additional metadata. I wonder if Jason was in here and was saying, let's see, list map key. Nice. Okay. Well, maybe we can go in and add a default type here. I'm guessing that there's controller tools. We have this cloned locally. I don't know why I'm doing it from here. Let's see what's happening in the make file. Generate code generator, conversion gen, controller gen. Build controller gen from the tools folder, build conversion gen, generate manifests. Let's see, CRD versions. So that's using controller gen as well. So let's see if controller gen, or which I believe is in controller tools. Let's actually just give that a shot. See if bumping controller tools works out for us here. Oh, it doesn't look like that it's specified here. Controller gen. Let's see. Huh, well, it looks like that's v0.3.0 and 0.2.0 worked. Interesting. Container ports. Let's see. Core v1 protocol. Let's see if any of these are useful. So that was the most recent thing. So it looks like this was into, what's the most recent version? v0.4.1 maybe? Let's see if we can. Let's try a make generate manifest from that. Make generate manifest. Let's see if that works for us. All right, it looks like that was successful. And let's see if there's any updates. It looks like there is. Controller gen kubebuilder.io version. Is that the only change that happened? Although I don't think we were seeing it with the, let's see, X Kubernetes list map keys. Yeah, that's the only change that we're seeing. So maybe we need to list map. Let's see. Metadata item. It's optional. Is there a default annotation? Let's look in Cube Builder and see. Let's see. CRD generation. Okay. It might not be specified here. List type and map type. Let's see if we can find where those are specified. Controller gen. Let's see. Where's the list of markers? Okay, that's not what we want. Let's see if Jason might have pointed to them in the PR. That's not the one I wanted. List type map. Let's see if we can just find the general documentation for this. Default value not allowed. This is probably the same issue that we have here. Oh, I don't want to look through this again. Kubernetes. Interesting. Let's see what this is. Let's see, list map type. List merging behaviors, cool. And I bet if there's any specialized ones here. Let's see, control tools. Wondering how we can do better. The linter command and control tools gives tips to use when you encounter a field of list type with these markers unspecified. All right. So we need, do we have the specific error still here? We need default or required. In addition to the ones added by the default GCP provider. All right, I'm gonna follow up potentially on this a little bit later. But I bet if we just did the, let's see, list type equals map list type. Okay, yeah, so this is the merge strategy. I don't necessarily understand why there needs to be a default. List type set. See here. Let's see, patch strategy, merge, list type, list map key, map type. Can you set a default though? This is just a hopeless search here. Let's see, default. This would probably be in the one here. Skip void storage version, group name, version name. Let's do CRD validation. Optional. Do we have a default here? I don't think so. Oh, here we go. Sets the default value for this field. Default value will be accepted as any value valid for the field. Formatting the common types. List map key. All right, let's see if someone else has done this. Let's see. One at 18 support is stuck until we support this. Must either be required or have a default value. So I wonder if for, let's see, the properties must be made require. You can specify default attributes using the V1 CRD API. Yeah, let's see here. Defaulting, type, yeah, so default there. Let's see if we can do, let's see, list type. They don't have that here. X Kubernetes list. Huh. What version? Are we on the, I guess it's just not defined here. List type optional. Default metadata items. I wonder if we can just do default equals what is metadata items? I guess just like empty, maybe? Let's give that a try. Why not? I think this is in multiple of them. GCP clusters. Oh, what am I doing? All right, APIs, GCP types, list type. That one we set. GCP machine, GCP cluster. Let's try that. Was there only one? Oh, machine template. That was the other one, I think. Maybe not. I can also just look at the PR. And I'm going to not use 0.13 here. Or 0.4 here. Sorry. Going back to 0.3. Not sure what I was saying there. Make generate manifest. Let's see if that default works for us. All right. And we should see a change in one of these machine templates. X Kubernetes list type. We are not getting a default here. Maybe this is newer. Default value will be accepted. Let's see, array, object. Containing full validation of a default requires submission of the containing CRD to an API server. Let me check this real quick. All right. I feel like this should work, but let's try going up again on controller gen. See if that helps us. We could also potentially try and put a, oh, this is cube builder default though. Controller gen. Here we go. Let's look at this. Default value must be specified. Nice. Okay. So we need cube builder default. Let me just make sure that that actually didn't change anything. Yeah. Okay. Cube builder. Are cube builder fields used anywhere here? Cube builder. Yeah, they are. Okay. We're good. Where was I with that? Cube builder. And let's just use the exact same change that's used here. Cube builder validation. Cube builder default. All right, that should be fine. It might just be folks' opinion that we should just not use this for now too. Okay. What was the change in? Cube builder default. Do we need a newer version of controller gen? Let's just see here. Cube builder default. This looks like what we're doing here. So I'm gonna, although this was closed, of course, so something to keep in mind. Just make sure. Yeah, okay, that looks like what we were doing here. Controller tools, let's go back. Cube builder default. Fix defaulting tag. So, okay, this has been around for a while at this point. So I would expect it to be present here. But it is not defaulting for me. I don't know if it's because I'm using a older version or not. Or I'm using an empty field rather. Let's just see if we can make it upset and see if that changes anything. am surprised it accepted that. Default, additional metadata. Let's see. Okay, we're still connected. So k apply -k config. Let's see. Custom resource definition. Must have a default or be a required property. Let's see. GCP machine templates. Yep. What I'm wondering is this field used in? Yeah, okay. So the same additional metadata field is used in both. I'm going to try and just manually do this, see what happens. Let's see. Must have a default invalid value. Must be of type array. I don't think this is valid YAML. So I doubt this is going to work. This is not necessarily super easy here. A list of, let's see, object. I don't think we want to default. Maybe we should just open a revert to this PR. Because I'm not really sure what the protocol is for let's see, optional cube builder default for a slice of structs. But the shape, I'm not sure how controller tools would automatically infer this. Let's see. So the missing types, core types lack any way to indicate default values. I can see why cube builder annotations won't make sense here. Let's see. See what this workaround is. Required. So I don't think we want this additional metadata field required though, right? So let me hop back over to the if I still have it open somewhere. Yeah, support additional metadata. Probably shouldn't even be able to generate these without list type of map. Well, let's see, we need to just additional metadata. let's open it and see what folks say. Could be useful. All right, so what I want to do here is just remove all of these. You have a default. We should be able to have a default empty object though, right? Or an array of, wait, let's try that. If we, because it's supposed to be an array of objects. So maybe. Let's give that a try. Contains a YAML JSON invalid map key map. Yeah, it's not gonna accept that. Although it's really a, let's see, item, properties, key, type, string, value. It's an array. Yeah, it's an array of objects. So doing an empty one here. Yeah, this is just not going to work, I don't think. So let's just try reverting this. See what happens. Okay. What do we make generate? And then I'm going to get on a new branch because I don't want to open a PR with the rest of this stuff in there right now. Did it remove? Oh yeah, okay, here we go. Cool. So let's do get checkout -b x Kate's list. Get add config crd bases and API. And what we want to say here is make additional metadata not X Kubernetes. What is it called? X Kubernetes list type. All right. Make additional. Yeah. Okay. Using X Kubernetes list type with v1 CRDs requires that one specify that the field is either required or has a default value. In the case of additional metadata, neither of those make sense. Let's see, in the case of additional metadata, neither of those, yeah, make sense. Let's see. So let's try this. There might be a way to set the default to an empty struct. I'm not sure. But we'll say this is a partial revert of 342 here. Let's see. So I'll say this partial revert of 342. Actually, looks like that should be its own section there. Special notes for your reviewer. We can check these off because, and I don't think we really need a release note here because it's not actually, well, it is an API change, but it's inter-release, so I don't know what the policy is there. To default, let's see, we could optionally try to default to an empty slice of structs, but I couldn't identify a good way to do so. And then let's reference this PR so folks don't have to go, or this issue, excuse me. Let's see. Here. I'll do it in special notes. See for more info. And this is a kind API change technically. Well, from a user perspective, it's not really, I guess. But it is an API change. I assume this one was also labeled as API change. I'll add a release note if determined. That would be a good thing. And then I'll assign other folks on that as well. Let's see. And it could be that I'm just missing this. Justin SB, and I think Carlos was on this as well. And I assume that this PR had some CI running on it. So I'm not exactly sure how this was applied correctly or how this was applied at all. Could be that, let's see, end-to-end test. Maybe it's using an old Kubernetes version. I have no idea. But anyway, we can always close it if not needed. But I'll open that up and we'll see what happens. All right, cool. We definitely went way over time here. And I have a few other things pinging me now, it looks like. And so we will hop off the stream for today. But it was Definitely fun to do this. I'll post a screenshot of our health check that got created. Let's double check and see if our Kubernetes cluster created one. And then I promise that's the last thing before sign off. It doesn't look like it did. Is this still provisioning? No way. It looks like it is still provisioning. So I think there's definitely a possibility that it does create health checks when it gets spun up. But anyway, that is some helpful insight for us to have now. And with that, let me go ahead and stop sharing, and we'll go ahead and call it a day. Let's see. It is Thursday, so getting close to the weekend. Not sure if we'll do a stream tomorrow, but thanks to everyone for stopping by. And I'll make sure to keep you updated on Cluster API and Crossplane stuff. Cool. Have a good one.